Hey guys, what's going on? So I'm going to show you today how to install an aux cord into your 350Z that has a cassette radio in it. So I'm going to show you the tools that you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need a flathead, preferably a short one, just to pull off the connectors because they're a pain. You're going to need some pliers, Phillips, another Phillips. You might want to use a drill. I like to use the drill. Some electrical tape, a really tiny Phillips, really tiny. That's for whenever we actually get into the radio part. And then you don't need a multimeter. You might want to use a multimeter. Then you need a soldering iron. You can pick one up from Walmart for like $5, or you can buy an expensive one. And yeah, that's really all you're gonna need. So I'll hop in the car and show you what you need to take apart. Alright, so now that we're inside the car, another thing you're gonna need possibly is a cassette tape. You can rip everything out of the inside. I just took it apart and ripped everything out, and snapped it back together. I have an aux installed. I decided to drill a hole right here, have the cord come out. That's just what I wanted. A lot of people do it up in here for whatever reason. They like to put it out of here. I don't like having this open while I'm driving, but that's what most people do. As you can see, mine is not functioning. That's why I'm taking it apart and showing you how to do it. But basically, I followed instructions online, and they were crap, basically. So I'm going to show you what happened to me, how you can do it properly, and so yeah. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take off your shift knob. So you just unscrew it. A lot of people put a clamp on the transmission where it connects to the actual shift linkage, but I don't always do the best practices, but hey, it's whatever. So at this point, you want to go ahead and put it in the third gear, unless you're in an automatic, obviously. You want to just pull your shift boot up, and then right here, you want to put your fingers underneath there and just pop it up. Don't be scared of breaking anything, it's just clips. So at that point, you can pull this guy out. And I have some towels in here for sound deadening, but yours will look more like that. So it won't have anything in it. It'll just be like that with this guy on there. So you want to take all that out, and then as you can see my aux cord right here. It's not cable managed or anything, but you see this little white wire. So whenever I get into the actual soldering the aux onto where the cassette goes, you'll see where I messed up and why the online guides aren't the best. Yeah, so basically once you're in here, it's pretty intuitive. There's 2 screws right here, 2 screws right there, there's 2 screws, there's one right there in the back that you'll take out, and then you have to pull everything out of here, lift this little guy up right here. There's gonna be a screw right there, a screw right there, and then that's basically it for taking this out. So you'll be able to pull this out. There will be 2 clips behind it. Obviously there's a clip right here that you'll have to pull out for this, and then you can pull this whole thing out. Then after that, where these guys connect, where your gauges connect, is right underneath this one. So whenever you pull back on this whole thing right here comes out. So there's going to be a connector right behind here. I won't be able to show it on camera very well, but you'll basically just pull that out, and then you'll be able to pull this whole assembly out a tiny bit. This is one of the parts where I messed up. So I should have known that I couldn't pull it out very far, but did anyways, and I ripped some of the cables on my radio here. But you can always get a new head unit, get an aftermarket one. Might be easier, to be honest with you, but if you don't want to spend the money, this is a really good way to get better audio quality out of your 350Z speakers. But basically I ripped some wires. I just had to put them back together, put some electrical tape, some whatever on there, and works fine. But one of the parts where I messed up was that. So be careful when you're pulling it out. You don't want to pull it out too far. I'll get back to you guys once I take all these screws out and pull this out and show you what it looks like. Alright guys, so once you have all the screws taken out and you have this unclipped back here, you can go ahead and pull this out. Now, whenever you pull it out, just kind of rest it. Good focus. Just kind of rest it like that, because you're gonna have all these wires back there. So this is one of the ones that got disconnected, and then right there where that electrical tape is, and right there got disconnected. So what you're gonna need to take out are these 4 clips. So these 4 white ones, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you'll have to pull this guy out. So after that, you'll be able to actually take off this assembly. So it's going to be 1, 2, and then 2 on the other side. And you'll be able to pull this completely out. And then once that's done, you can actually start on the modification. So I'm going to go ahead and undo all those connectors, pull that out, and then get started on the actual modification. Alright guys, so now that you're at this point, I just went ahead and put this back in. I mean, I didn't tighten it down or anything, but we have our radio out. So literally all the weight from this is from the radio. So whenever you're pulling it out, it's going to be it's not going to be super heavy, but it's going to be fairly heavy. So with the radio out, now we have to take off these side rails. So there's going to be 8 bolts. So 4 on this side, 4 on the other side, and then you'll be able to pull. There's usually a top cover on this. Now I have mine removed so that I can run all these wires out of it. But once you remove these side pieces right here, you'll be able to remove that top cover. And then after that, there's going to be a tiny bolt right there, right there, right there. And there's going to be one right there, one right there, one right there. I didn't put all the bolts back in, but basically take all those bolts out, and then you'll be able to pull the actual cassette piece off. And we'll be able to see why I have so many stupid wires connected to it and what made it mess up. So yeah, I'll take this out and then get back to you. Alright guys, so got that out now. It connects to those pins right there. Right there. So be careful not to break anything whenever you're pulling it out. You literally just lift it out and it'll come out after you take those bolts out. And this is what we're working with. So most of the guides online will tell you to take these springs out and disable this mechanism altogether, make it think that there's always a tape in there. Do not do that. Another thing they'll tell you to do is right there you see where those traces are that I've cut? They tell you to cut those first 3 traces, these 3 wires right here, these 3 solder joints, right channel, left channel, and ground. That's where those go to, those traces, those first 3 traces, right, left, and ground. So they tell you to cut those so that there's no signal going out of it, right? Well, my knife slipped and I cut 7 instead of 3, and it freaking messed up everything else. So what I ended up having to do is solder wires from these guys to these guys, just basically jumper wires. Solder jumper wires from these guys, right there where it says left channel, right channel, ground. I had to put jumper wires over to where you normally solder on the aux cord. So right here, these 3 solder joints, right there, left, right, and ground. Your aux cord's gonna come off of here. Mine popped off, obviously, because that's my aux cord. But yeah, so what I'm gonna have to do is resolder these, and then yeah, I'll have to get it back working. And I also, what I ended up having to do, because I screwed up a bunch of stuff, like I had to replace this guy right here because I messed this up. This is where it connects back onto the main board over here. I ended up having to desolder these guys, pull this entire board off, replace this, and replace some resistors that were underneath of here because I shorted something because I'm an idiot. So be careful when you're doing it, obviously, but literally all you need to do is get a cassette, take everything out of it, and then solder wires onto here. Put your key in after you take everything out, put the empty cassette in, and then just plug your phone in. That's it. But I followed the guide online and I screwed mine up, and I refuse to pay for a new one. If I am going to pay for something, I'm going to get an aftermarket one. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this up, and then slap it back in and enjoy music. So once I complete this, I will get back to you guys, put everything back together and show you that it's working. And so yeah, this is not an easy task, especially if you mess it up. So if you're not comfortable with electronics, with soldering, with board components, I would not recommend this. But if you do it the way that I say, and you don't follow the guides online, you just solder wires on there, put it all back together, and then put an empty cassette in there. It's really not too hard. There are a lot of things that you can mess up while doing this, but if you do it that way, that is the best way to do it. There's a video on YouTube already of somebody doing it. He puts a Bluetooth receiver in there, so he doesn't even have any wires, but he also, from what I remember, he also cut these traces, and he also disabled the cassette part. Don't do that. Just save yourself the hassle. Just solder wires on, buy a cassette for like $1 maybe, take everything out of it, and then it'll work just fine. So yeah, guys, I'll get back to you once everything's fixed and installed. So basically, just to recap, I went ahead and soldered those wires back on both spots. This time, instead of just electrical tape over it, I actually hot glued it down, so this is not coming undone again because this thoroughly pissed me off. But basically, I'm just gonna throw it back in there, and then yeah, after that, put everything back together, and then see if it works. So. Alright guys, so full disclosure, it's been about 3 months, 4 months since I last filmed that video. I got the aux all working now, everything. Everything's good, everything works. Got it all put back together. My girlfriend stole my steering wheel, so that's why I've got this thing. She's got my steering wheel in her car. Yeah, I have an iPhone 7, so I have to use this stupid dongle, but, got my old phone here, just to show you that everything works. I decided, unfortunately, to drill a hole right here, put a little gasket there, or not gasket, grommet, and I've got this switch here for my, excuse me, for my, reflectors in the front, and these wires are for my, my traction control, because the what is it called, VDC button doesn't turn off all your traction control, but there's a little orange wire underneath this that you can cut and then put a switch. Didn't have another switch, so anytime I want to go to Mexico, go to the track, I just undo those wires and you're good to go. But typically I just kind of have them in there. Eventually I'll get a switch for that. But what I should have done was drill a hole back in this thing here and have the wires come out there or something, or drill a hole in there or something and have the wires come out of there instead, because that's less permanent and less obvious than right here. But it is what it is. I wanted the wire to be close so I could tuck it under this e-brake, and so that's what I did. A lot of people put them up in this thing. That's all personal preference, but yeah, I got the wire in and everything, and basically all I did was, after I wired it in, I just routed it up through here, pulled the wire out, and there it is. If you wanted to, you could buy like a Bluetooth adapter that you can plug an aux into, wire up power to it through the radio or somewhere else. Just get 12 volts, plug it in, and plug this in and connect it to your phone, and you'd be able to use Bluetooth with it. I decided not to. I just decided to have a straight up aux, but I probably will eventually get a Bluetooth. That's why I kind of regret drilling this, because outside of going to the junkyard, they're pretty expensive. But I'll just show you that it's working. Got my phone here, and I'm just gonna YouTube and look up a song or something. Wow, that's really slow. Let me pause the video for a minute and pull up a song. So I just decided to say screw it and pull up Apple Music and play whatever's on here. So yep, I'll just play this for a couple seconds so we don't get copyrighted. But so yeah, you can see it's clearly working. So yeah, that was the install. Shouldn't be that difficult for you. It's not that hard of an install to do. Mine was a little bit more challenging because I screwed up my thing by cutting the traces on the board, and took a little bit more effort. But basically, after that last clip of me saying super glued it, I'm gonna throw it back in, see if it works. It worked. It was like 6 in the morning. I had been up all night, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. It's working. I got school at 8 in the morning. I'm just gonna put some tape over the radio so it doesn't fall out, go to sleep for an hour, and go to class. So that's what I did, and then never got around to finishing the video because I put it back together, not even thinking about finishing the video, and then yeah, here we are. But yeah, it's working. I did a little bit more research about it because I was wondering why a bunch of people were saying to do all the thing, cut the traces, and delete the spring and all that jazz. The reason it didn't work for me was because I had cut those traces. And I also, the first time I put it in and it worked, it was working, but not really. It was only coming out of one of the channels, and I just kind of put the left and the right together so that it would play out of both sides, even though it was only technically playing one side. And my soldering job wasn't very good. I had a crap soldering iron from Walmart, and I still had it, but I soldered it better, and I have since upgraded to a Weller, and I have a better soldering iron now, so I can do a lot more work, a lot better work. So I took it all apart again and resoldered everything, took that spring out, and it did work. I didn't cut the traces, and it did work. I didn't need to put in the fake empty cassette tape, and it did work. So I wanted to just let you guys know that you can take that spring out and it'll work just fine, even if you don't cut the traces. But my grandpa and grandma gave me a lot of cassette tapes, and the way that I've done it, you can still use the cassette tapes. I don't hear the radio noise or the static noise that a lot of people do whenever you don't cut the traces and you don't delete that spring. Whenever you first turn on the car, the cassette spins a little bit, and then it just goes away. You can't hear it anymore, even if you're not playing music. So yeah, that's the install, and hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this helped. I've had the issue with my sub as well, where it didn't work, and all I did was replace the capacitor everybody was talking about, and it started working just fine. I've got another capacitor over here in my stuff that I can show you, so you can see the part number on it and everything. I don't plan on doing a video about that because I don't see a point in it. It's pretty straightforward. There are a lot of things online about it, so I don't really see the point in it. But if you guys would like to see how I did it, I can show you. Basically all I did was desolder it from the board, the old one. I bought 2 new ones, so these pieces right here, the old one, this is what my old one looked like garbage. And then the new one that I got is here. It was about 50 cents, and that is what you guys will need to get. Part number CM51-S-DC 12V-C. It's 20 amp, 16 volt DC. Then the number of the capacitor is 17CK C1K6. So the capacitor name is 17C1K6. And I bought the IKE brand. Doesn't really matter what brand you get. Helpful tip for these Nissan boards. Really tough to get the solder out if you don't have a tool for it. Just go to your local Radio Shack or Fry's or whatever and buy one of these solder suckers. It's going to make your life 1,000 times easier. Basically, the way it works is you'll push this pin in, then heat it up with the soldering iron, and then grab this, put this on the solder ball, click the button, and it'll suck that solder right out. And then you can unscrew it and empty it out and stuff, but it's a very helpful tool to have. And ever since I did that, I haven't had a single issue with my sub. I do plan on replacing my speakers, but that'll be later on, whenever I have the money to do so. But yeah, that is how you install aux cord on your factory head unit. And pretty soon I'm going to be installing a new head unit anyways, so I'll make a video about that, and eventually once I buy new speakers I'll make a video about putting new speakers in it as well. Coming up pretty soon, I'm going to make a video about how to put a head unit in a Miata, how to put, I'm going to put these 6x9 speakers in the back of her car. I don't really know what to call it, but like behind the seats, on top of that little ridge, I guess, and just as subs and just mid speakers, because the Miata has some small, I don't even know what size they are in the door, and so we're just gonna do that in her car, and she's already got a head unit in there that we put in, but I'm gonna have to wire those speakers up to it, so figured I might as well just show you guys how to install the head unit also while we do that. But yeah, enough rambling. Thank you guys for watching. Hope it helped, and have fun.